Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Uncle Matt here live for our Sunday morning pre-NFL chat. Gonna try to get through this one without my mic dying for like 8 minutes and me not noticing. So we'll see if we can be a little bit better in production quality this week than last week. Probably not, though. That's what you come to expect from an Uncle Mad live stream. Gonna talk about the Titans versus Buffalo Bills games. As sad as it is to have to talk about that, I will talk about it. I'll share my thoughts and they are not good. But then we'll go through NFL slate, all the picks, predictions, go fully straight down the line and give out all of my thoughts on the week 12 slate, or week 12, I'm sorry, week 7 slate. Just looking ahead a little bit, I went 10-2 on my picks last week. We'll talk more about that in a second, but start with the Titans and the Bills. Big news for this game is the Titans are going to be starting Mason Rudolph. Not really sure what happened here with Will Levis. Last week, all the indications were, all the belief was that he had fully recovered from his shoulder injury. I think by the end of the week last week, he wasn't even on the injury report at all. Went into the game. Callahan and the other coaches are saying he had full, availability, full practice, no limitations. Then post game, Will Levis came out and said, couple of the throws that came up short were probably because he was injured still, which is odd when your entire coaching staff and everybody had been saying there was no issues, the injury had cleared up, and that he was good to go. And then he's coming out and saying, yeah, so it was the injury was what caused the underthrows. One of them being the terrible interception he threw. Lock and load, put that into every week recap and preview, is the Will Levis terrible interception. But don't know if he re-aggravated it at some point during the game. Didn't seem to be the case. I don't recall him going to the blue tent or coming up like kind of favoring it in their ginger. You don't watch, can't see every split second of what he's doing on the sidelines in the game and everything like that. But I don't recall there being a moment where he seemed to re-injure it in the game. So don't know if doctors, coaches, somebody thought he was better off than he was, and he internally knew he was bad off and was trying to fight through it. Maybe he wasn't fully disclosing pain levels, discomfort levels, or something like that. Who knows? It's a very bizarre situation, because then he popped back up on the injury report this week after being completely off it last week. Listed as questionable throughout the week, limited participant in practices. Kind of the giveaway was yesterday. We brought up Trevor Siemian from the practice squad as like a standard elevation. That tells you if you're bringing up your third quarterback, you're probably thinking one of your quarterbacks that you usually roll with is not going to be available. I don't think the team's officially announced it yet, but it's been dropped out by a bunch of different sources that are pretty accurate on this type of stuff, that Mason Rudolph's going to start. So once again, it's just a very, very weird scenario. I mean, did the team try to give Levis an out to hey, is the injury bothering you? Do you want to sit this week? Did he kind of see the writing on the wall and kind of go, oh, hey, by the way, my shoulder's still hurt? And they were like, huh, what? What do you mean your shoulder's still hurt? Because I think we can all see it's probably over for Will Levis. It's probably over for that, experiment. I know people have been calling for a couple weeks to switch to Rudolph anyway, but to me, it was, I keep going back to, I felt like had to ride with Levis, had to, see what we had there, had to, get the most we could out of him and figure out where we're going to be. And the season sucks and we fall apart. We know he sucks. We get a good draft pick out of it. We can move forward and move on. Rudolph, does he get us maybe 2 to 3 wins that Levis wouldn't have? Maybe, probably. Is that worth it? Is an extra 2-3 wins worth anything to the Titans this season? I don't think so. I think a lot of people are flashing back to when Tannehill replaced Mariota and we went on a run, ended up all the way into the AFC Championship game that year. Mason Rudolph, I'd like to be wrong about this, but I don't think he's that guy. I mean, Tannehill had a track record of being pretty decent, pretty successful in Miami. His problem in Miami was more that he kept getting hurt, so it was, not like he was a bum, low-level, mid-tier quarterback that just stumbled into Tennessee the way Mason Rudolph kind of has. He was actually somewhat successful. He couldn't stay healthy, couldn't stay on the field for Miami, and they ended up having to move on, and worked out well for us because somehow he was magically mostly cured for 2 years and then kind of fell back apart the last couple of years that he was here. But I don't think Mason Rudolph is going to end up being that same type of guy. I think he's a guy who can get us maybe 2 or 3 wins that Levis might not be able to get us. So, that's the difference between what maybe being a 3-14 team and a 5-12, like 6-11 at best. Like that's just all we're doing there is hurting our draft stock and making it harder to hit the reset button next season. So I don't know. He's playing though. There's nothing that's going to change that today. I mean, I don't know that either quarterback would help in a game like this. The one time we've seen Mason Rudolph this season, whether it was because the game was in hand, whether it was because, Callahan is just super cautious all the time. We just did not let Mason Rudolph do anything in that game. It was all handoffs, all short passes, and the Dolphins are just so bad it worked and we beat them, but the Bills aren't the Dolphins. Scoring 17, 20 points is not going to be enough. And I don't see where Mason Rudolph takes this team from being the team that can only score 17 points a game to being a team that can score on the level that the Bills are probably going to score today. I mean, our defense, I don't know, like we're like highly rated, like statistically getting good reps. I mean, there's good stuff out there, but there's also Snead just got cooked all last week by the Colts. Like Michael Pittman, who's been like injured and like was like on the borderline of going on IR, but somehow magically recovered in time for the Titans game, just demolished him all game long. He might be out today too, though, because he was on the injury report. We brought up an extra defensive back from the practice squad, so he might be out. I don't know if that makes things any better or any worse. Still not generating hardly any pass rush. Barely got a hand on Joe Flacco last week. And, Josh Allen is at a quarterback you want to like be facing when you can't rush the passer. We've been crushed by quarterbacks who could scramble this season. I mean, Malik Willis looked like the second coming of Steve McNair against us in the Packers game. Josh Allen compared to Malik Willis, like this has got bad news written all over it. I don't know what the latest line is like. I think we only opened up at I think the Bills only opened up like 6.5 or 7.5 point favorites, but I think it's like jumped all the way up to 9.5 now, which makes sense to me. I mean, I don't know if people were giving us a little bit of credit because we have been close in every game, but this is just a terrible all-around matchup for us. And they've got Amari Cooper coming in now too with the Bills. Like they add him, like, yay, this was going to be hard enough. And now they get like a high-level veteran wide receiver to add to the mix of their younger kind of hodgepodge group they've been running out for the most part. But if it's still 9.5, I'd lean Bills because I don't see how this game is anything other than like 42-17 Bills. Like I feel like everything's going to click for them. Like the stuff that we have done well on defense, stopping the run. I think Josh Allen gets 40, 50 yards easy. Their running back's been very good this season. What's his name? Cook. Yeah, I mean, like maybe able to bottle him up a little bit, but I don't know that we can bottle up Josh Allen throwing, running, just cooking us all day long. I would, take pretty much any bet that involves the Bills there because I see very little hope of the Titans getting anything out of this game. We'll see what's going to happen. What's going to be like going forward. Does Rudolph show enough to keep the starting job? Is Levis going to just injury going to last a few weeks? That's probably the more interesting thing of this game is what is coming for the future of the quarterback position for the rest of the season. And, Rudolph goes out and looks good and keeps it close somehow, then I don't see how you could possibly go back to Levis after that. Just, it'll just seem insane at that point in time. There was some stuff. So jumping around a little bit. F words, football and other F words, Titans podcast that kind of simulcast now on 104.5 The Zone, local radio station here. Brought up a story that I think most people kind of shot down and pushed to the side last season. Charles Robinson had reported that Amy Adams Strunk was the kind of main voice in Titans HQ pushing for the drafting of Will Levis. It wasn't as much that it wasn't like a Rand Carthon 100% like he identified him, said, this is the guy I want, let's go get him. Whatever reason, Amy Adams Strunk got it in her head that he was a guy they should go get. And I don't know if that was like a need to go find a franchise quarterback and he was the best available. Don't know exactly. Like it feels weird to me for her to have like even known who Will Levis was. Like, I don't know how much college football Amy Adams Strunk watches. Like, it made sense when Bud Adams, her dad, pushed Floyd Reese to draft Vince Young because, I mean, Bud Adams knew everything that was going on in the state of Texas. So that one made sense. This one's a little bit more like, I don't know that she specifically was like, hey, we should draft Will Levis, as much as she was like, hey, we need to get a quarterback for the future out of this draft. So I don't know that may have been a little bit of a game of telephone, because it seems weird to me that she would be honed in specifically on Will Levis specifically. It just doesn't seem like that would be something that would be on her radar. But there has been talk that, part of playing Will Levis more is also proving to her that he's not the guy, that he's a guy we're going to have to move on from type thing. Similar to what you're seeing in Cleveland, where, a lot of speculation is the only reason Deshaun Watson is still starting is because the owners have basically told the coaches, hey, we spent all this draft capital, we spent all this money on this idiot, you got to play him, and just playing him till the wheels fall off and they have no choice but to bench him. But I don't know that that's necessarily the case, but they did, bring that report back up, and that was kind of somewhat interesting to kind of put a little earworm in my head and make me think a little bit more about it. But like I said, it just feels a little odd that Amy Adams Strunk would be like zeroed in on Will Levis specifically. Like, I can see her being like, hey, you have to get a quarterback in this draft. But the idea of her like going to Rand Carthon and being like, I'm in love with Will Levis, he's going to be the best of all time, draft Will Levis. That one, I don't know that it was that level of involvement in this thing. So I don't know. We'll see. Don't really want to talk anymore about the Titans because it's kind of depressing at this point in time. Somebody commented on, I think it was last week's game week vlog. It was something like, hey man, love the content. Going to keep watching a lot of your videos, but I can't watch these game day vlogs where your teams are just like kicking you in the nuts every single week. And I was like, yeah, it's getting very, very hard to record those videos anymore. Like the last Nashville SC home game, I honestly wasn't going to vlog it. And then I was just like, I've done this much. I'm just going to stick it through. I was watching actually this guy who I follow, who was doing a vlog of his experience going to a Green Bay Packers game. And he documented a lot more of just like what he was doing at the game, his experience at the game, didn't really vlog the game, didn't really gave some quick thoughts about the game afterwards. He was a Packers fan. It was the game that got pretty much crushed by the Vikings. But it wasn't like, documenting the game as much as documenting his experience at the game. And I think I used to do more of that, like in the earlier game day vlogs for both Nashville SC and the Titans. And that was when I was, trying new foods, kind of touring the stadium, showing new things that were there. But at a certain point in time, I've been to so many games, there's not much new for me to document. And like, I haven't really felt like eating at the games because it's like 100 degrees and like, don't really want to get up out of my seat and like have to walk over a million people and stand in lines and stuff like that. So that's probably hurt the videos too, is that I'm not documenting the experience as much as I'm just documenting this terrible team just getting absolutely demolished. And speaking of terrible teams getting demolished, got the London game going on right now, Jacksonville and New England. I tell you, we'll get into the picks here in a second. For this week, I took Patriots money line, which was a stupid pick. I knew it was a stupid pick when I took it, but it was kind of a situation of me thinking like, these teams both suck. Who could possibly suck less? It feels like the Jaguars were spiraling. Like this was going to be the ultimate final nail in Doug Peter's coffin type of game. And it looked that way from the start. Like the Patriots came out, great start, got up 10-0, and the Jaguars have just been unstoppable for like the second quarter on. Now they're just kicked the field goal to go up 26-10. So probably does it for this game, but I was on the wrong side of that one. But I was on the right side of a lot of games last week. Before we get into this week's picks, we have to go to my patented, unfallible, unmistakable, great, elite power rankings. Here we go, starting top to bottom. Number 1, Chiefs. Number 2, Vikings. Number 3, Ravens. Number 4, Lions. Number 5, Texans. 6, Packers. 7, Bills. 8, 49ers. 9, Commanders. 10, Falcons. 11, Chargers. 12, Steelers. 13, Bucks. 14, Bears. 15, Bengals. 16, Saints. 17, Cardinals. 18, Seahawks. 19, the Eagles. 20, the Colts. 21, the Jets. 22, the Broncos. 23, the Cowboys. 24, the Rams. 25, the Giants. 26, the Panthers. 27, the Titans, probably going to be lower after this week. 28, the Raiders. 29, the Browns. Actually, I don't know if I can move the Titans lower because these teams are so bad at the very bottom. Like the bottom of the NFL this year is just like as bad as it's ever been, which is not a good thing for the Titans because in a year where we probably need to not have a great season and get a high draft pick, I think these 5 teams are by far going to be worse than us. And best case scenario, we're picking like 7 through 10 somewhere again, which seems to be our permanent spot. 28 Raiders, 29 Browns, 30 Jags, 31 Dolphins, 32 Patriots. Yeah, I'm an idiot. I've got the Patriots ranked bottom of my power rankings, and I picked them to beat the Jags. But the Jags were pretty low too. It's kind of when you got 2 teams that bad, it's like lesser of 2 evils type of thing. All right, so last week, before we get into this week's picks, I want to recap last week's picks. I went 10-2 last week, which if I'd bet all these individually, would have been a good week, but I'm stupid and I just put it all together as one big parlay for $1, and 2 legs failed me. And the only 2 legs that failed me were probably 2 legs that I think I probably talked about wanting to maybe go the other way and then just for whatever stupid reason didn't. 2 legs that lost. I had Broncos +3. They lost to the Chargers 23-16. I've been talking all season about how I like Harbaugh and Chargers. I like how he's got them playing. I think he's crisped up what was kind of an undisciplined, stupid team, and the talent the roster already had kind of, was there. I probably should have listened to myself and picked the Chargers in that game, but for whatever reason, I thought the Broncos had been playing pretty good. They've been on a decent run, crushed the Saints Thursday night, so that's already happened since this happened. But whatever reason, I thought Broncos at home in that game, but I should have gone with my season running instinct and stuck with the Chargers. The other one that lost, Commanders +6.5. I know I said on this game, if it was +7, I'd be all about it, but then I still liked what the Commanders have been doing and wanted to take them +6.5. They lose 30-23. So if I had been able to get +7 as part of this parlay, that would have been a push, would have been taken out of the odds and, would have gone wherever else. So if I'd gotten +7, if I'd listened to my initial instincts about the Chargers, could have been a crazy hit on that parlay, but it was not. So live to fight another day. Let's look at this week. We're going to DraftKings NFL Week 7. Picks on the spread for every single game except Patriots Jaguars, which obviously is already going on. The live line is Jaguars -14.5. They're currently up 15. I'd be tempted to take the Patriots live at +14.5, but they've just showed so little life since like the second drive of the game. I don't know that they're going to score again in this game, so hard to see. I'm not going to take anything on it, but I might lean Patriots there if they can get like one more touchdown. All right, Titans, Bills. All right, it's now. Did we pick up a half point because we're starting Mason Rudolph? That's not a good sign for Will Levis if we gained on the Bills because of Mason Rudolph. It's now Titans +9. I don't care. I think the Bills win this by 2 touchdowns. Bills -9. That's one I might actually bet for real. I hate betting Titans games just because it's never fun to have bets riding on your own team just because if your team sucks and they lose and you lose your bets, it's just all a double whammy. But I cannot see a scenario where the Bills, unless the Bills just like take their foot completely off the gas and just like coast through the whole second half or something like that. I can't see a scenario where they don't beat us by 2 touchdowns. So I'll take Bills -9. Lions, Vikings. This is going to be a great game. Favorites, Vikings -1.5. They're the home team here. I would think I would take, that's a tough call. I'm going Lions. I feel like they've got a lot of momentum going right now. Vikings have looked a little shaky the last couple of weeks after, having a great start, obviously undefeated up to this point, but the Lions seem to have like fully clicked into gear, and I think they're going to be a really dangerous team for the rest of the season. Tough to go to Vikings, give them a little home field advantage, but I like the Lions here, so I take +1.5. And obviously, if you're taking a spread that close, you probably sprinkle a little on the money line as well. Bengals, Browns, complete disaster, but I feel like there's like this old mojo thing where like the Browns are a team that for whatever reason Joe Burrow always struggles against. Like there's 2 things the Bengals have trends that have gone for the last couple of years is they always struggle the first like 4 to 6 weeks. And Joe Burrow always loses to the Browns, but the Browns just unreal how bad they are this season. It's unreal how bad they are. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm just going to take Bengals minus 5.5. But if I were to overthink it, I could see this be the breaking point where at some point in this game, they finally bench Deshaun Watson. Jameis Winston comes in, does usual Jameis Winston stuff. We're just throwing all over the place. Probably throws 3 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. Does enough to he comes in. He could probably do enough to keep him within that number. I still think the Bengals would win, but I'm not going to overthink it and get to the point of a scenario happening that may not actually happen in the game. And we'll just stick to Deshaun Watson plays every snap. Bengals win this game pretty easily. Bengals minus 5.5. Eagles Giants. Eagles minus 3. That is a statement about how much the Eagles are struggling this season. That, the Giants, it's at New York, but you think the Eagles would be like, a little bit more than minus 3. Giants look like they've kind of gotten a little bit together the past couple weeks. They're looking more like the playoff run they had a couple years ago, where Dayball's drawing up offense that favors what Daniel Jones' strengths are, whether than his weaknesses are. I don't know why all coaches can't figure out how to do that. That's the biggest thing I have against Brian Callahan so far this season is his answer to Will Levis' struggles has been just to try to not let Will Levis do anything, as opposed to trying to figure out a way to hide the weaknesses and enhance the strengths, but which there were some hints from both offensive coordinator and Brian Callahan this week that they're trying to do more, and Will Levis is not unleashing it. Will Levis is the one who's opting for checkdowns, opting for whatever. Will Levis sucks. I think we know that at this point in time, so it's not neither here nor there. And what does that have to do with the Eagles and Giants game that I'm trying to give a pick for here? Eagles minus 3. I think this is a good opportunity. They're getting a little bit healthier. They need to get something going here. Sirianni is wibbly wobbly. I mean, he could be fired if they lose this game. So I think they have to win this game. Everything's on the line for them at this point. It's like must win. So taking Eagles minus 3. Packers, Texans, Packers minus 3. I'm already taking this. I have this bet as an actual bet. Texans, Nico Collins, top receivers down. I think they've got a couple other injuries, a couple other players out. They struggled against the Vikings, who the Packers, but I think, both teams have lost to the Vikings, but I think the Packers lost a little bit worse, but that's weird one there. But, Packers look like they're starting to get things going now. Jordan Love's more comfortable coming off the injury. He's got his receivers coming back healthy. Josh Jacobs has been looking good the last few weeks. Think this is a spot at home. Tough one for the Texans. They can easily win this game, but I'm going to go with the home team, who I think is a potential Super Bowl contender. Packers minus 3. Seahawks, Falcons minus 3. It's a weird one. I feel like the Seahawks have kind of been trending in the wrong direction the last couple of weeks, and the Falcons have been trending in the right direction, but I guess the Falcons haven't really fully had a really dominant, convincing win. They've escaped a few games, didn't look great against the Panthers last week, but it ended up winning pretty comfortably there. I think I like the Falcons there. I'm going to go Falcons minus 3, but yeah. Colts, Dolphins. This is another game I've already got a bet locked in for real time. Oh, it just jumped right in front of me. It was minus 2.5. It just jumped up to 3. I've got the Colts at minus 2.5. If we said this last week when they were playing the Titans, if Joe Flacco was playing this game, I would lock in whatever point spread it was for the Colts, because I think the Dolphins are just broken. Mike McDaniel doesn't know how to run his offense without his perfect, quarterback in there. And even before, like we said, Tua looked awful before he got the concussion. So it already seemed like some of the stuff Miami was doing was a little broken this season. I don't see, unless Tyreek just has like 300 yards receiving, I don't see any way that the Dolphins can win this game. So I think the Colts they just seem to be able to keep themselves close and find ways to win games like they did against the Titans last week. And I think the Titans are somehow better than the Dolphins. So I don't know how, unless Anthony Richardson throws 7 interceptions and Tyreek Hill has 500 yards receiving, I don't see how the Dolphins could even have a chance here. So I've already bet it real live. We're taking it this week. It's Colts minus 3 now. I've got 2.5 when I bet it. Panthers, Commanders 9.5 point favorites over the Panthers. Trend this season has been that the biggest underdog each week either wins outright or covers. There hasn't been a game where there's a huge underdog and they actually got really fully demolished. I don't know if I want to go with that trend. The Panthers have looked a little bit more competent with Andy Dalton running the offense. So I think they can score against the Commanders defense. So that's where I kind of think, I think the Commanders put up 40 points in this game, but I also think the Panthers can probably put up 30. So 9.5 seems a little big. Just based on the trend, I think the Commanders are definitely better than the Panthers, considerably better than the Panthers, but just based on the trend of heavy underdogs covering, we're going to take the Panthers minus 9.5. That feels stupid. That feels gross. That's the one I'm going to come back next week and be like, we only lost one in the entire leg, and it was the freaking Panthers. Mark this down. Clip that. I don't have any producers. Nobody's going to clip that. Raiders, Rams. Rams, 7.5-point favorite. I feel like the Rams, just the bye week, must have done them wonders for them to be 7.5-point favorites over anybody, because they're like, what, 2-4? And have lost some games pretty handily and are decimated with injuries. I think they are getting back at least Cooper Kupp and maybe Puka Nacua in this game, but I think the Raiders are very bad, though. The Kirk Manahan deal with him launching the fake Belichick rumor and all of NFL media going with it this week was hilarious. If you haven't found out about that, look up Kirk Manahan's show and see how that all started. But yeah, I think the Raiders are a mess. I think it's only going to get worse for the Raiders. Got Rams minus 7.5. I'll take that. I'd like it better at 7, but I'll take 7.5. I don't care. Chiefs 49ers, probably right there with Lions and Vikings. Game of the week. Super Bowl rematch. 49ers 2-point favorite at home over the Chiefs. Chiefs undefeated, but haven't looked good, haven't looked convincing, have just found ways to win games. 49ers, though, it's not like it's been a great season for them. They've popped up last week, got a good win against the Seahawks, but had their struggles as well. So, you got one team that's struggling, but has found a way to win games. You got another team that's struggling and has found a way to lose games. I'm going to go with the team that's been struggling and found a way to win games more often than not. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. You got to ride them until somebody proves otherwise. Chiefs +2. Sprinkle on the money line because I think they might win outright. Sunday night football, Jets, Steelers. Bleh, what a terrible game this will be to watch. Two teams that are just Steelers, what they have been for the last 5 or 6 years. Solid defensively. Barf, nothing going on offense. Jets bringing in Davante Adams. Looks like he'll play. Does he really do that much for them? I don't know, because, I think he'll be better than Julio Jones was for the Titans. But I could see a similar scenario to where Julio had been in Atlanta. Atlanta had been kind of down. So it was kind of like Julio hadn't had as good a seasons as he'd been having. But you could kind of chalk it up to be like, oh, Atlanta's just sucked recently. So, it hasn't been the opportunity there for him to be as good as he was in the heyday when Matt Ryan was throwing him the ball. And then I think it turned out that he was actually just washed. And so there's a little bit of that with Davante Adams. He hasn't been great since he got to Las Vegas. He's had a handful of good games, but he's had a lot of injuries too. And so, you could chalk it up. What's the real result? Is Davante Adams a little past it, or did the Raiders just suck so bad that even he couldn't bring life to them? I think he'll give a little bit to the Jets, but I don't think it's like a miracle turnaround savior thing that it's going to be. Russell Wilson is starting for the Steelers. I don't know, man. This game's gross. I'll go Steelers. They've Mike Tomlin, home underdog. I should have just started with that. If Mike Tomlin, home underdog, that's easy money. Steelers +2 all day, every day. Another Monday Night Football doubleheader this week. Couple of good games, too, because it usually, it's been like when the Titans and the Dolphins, and then the other one was like Bills and somebody good. It's usually been one crap game and one good game. This should be two pretty decent games. Got Ravens and Bucks as the first game at 7:15, followed by the Chargers and Cardinals at 8. Monday Night Football, Ravens. I think the Ravens are really clicking. They're really getting things going. Bucks have been a team I've liked a lot over the last year or so, but I think they are going to be in trouble in this game. I think the Ravens probably roll pretty comfortably. I'll take Ravens 3.5 right there. Chargers, Cardinals. Chargers -2 at Arizona. Don't overthink this because I did it last week with the Chargers. I like the Chargers. I like what Jim Harbaugh is doing there. He really hasn't even had to open up with Justin Herbert yet. They've really just been controlling games with their defense and their run game. If they get into a spot like this where Could turn into shootout, could get interesting, but I mean, we've seen Justin Herbert is I think he's a little overrated, but he is a very good quarterback. So I'm going to not overthink and talk myself out of the Chargers like I did last week. We're going to go Chargers -2. All right, so let's run down. This is the full list of picks that we have for this week. Buffalo Bills -9, Detroit +1.5, Bengals -5.5, Eagles -3, Packers -3, Falcons -3, Colts -3, Panthers +9.5, Rams -7.5, Chiefs +2, Steelers +2, Ravens -3.5, and Chargers -2. We're going to put in a $1 bet on this 3-pick parlay, on this 13-pick parlay. And let's see here, $1. $1 bet, if all 13 legs hit, will pay out $4,769.88. So here we go. Went 10-2 last week. Now, from everything I've read, everything I've heard, last week was like a crazy week for the public. Vegas, one of the hardest weeks the books have ever gotten hit on. Definitely will be a bounce back week for the books. So not going to go 10-2 this week. Not going to go 13-0. Probably going to go quite the opposite. So might be smart if anybody, I don't know if anybody actually follows these picks at all, but if you do, this might be a smart week to fade my picks rather than roll with them, because 10-2, that's like a crazy, crazy good week. So the odds of being able to come back from that, the odds of being able to like have a 10-2 week and bounce back and have a equal or better week, things have to swing back the other way. So this is probably a fade these picks week. So that's going to be it for this one. I'm going to wrap up this video live stream for Sunday morning, week 7 of the NFL slate. Thank you for watching. Enjoy your football. I will not be enjoying mine. Titans suck. I actually won't even be watching the game live. I have to ref a college soccer game at like 2 o'clock here local time. So it's like, I have to be there probably about like 12:30, 12:45. So there's really no point to watch like the first like 10 minutes of the Titans game and then have to leave. So won't watch the Titans game at all live. And it's going to be one of those weird scenarios where I'll probably try to avoid spoilers and then watch a DVR replay of it when I get home this evening. But also kind of feels like a game where maybe I want somebody to spoil it for me and like let me know like, hey, do not waste 3.5 hours on this game, type of thing. It's that type of scenario with the Titans today. But yeah, so much fun to talk about almost sports teams. We're living in some crazy world where Manchester United sucks. They got a win yesterday, but it was ugly and not really impressive. And Eric Ten Hag's talking out his ass on everything he's saying. He said like, oh, the statistics show that we are a good team, when the statistics actually show that they are a bottom half of the table Premier League team. This is not going to go down a rabbit hole. They suck. Nashville SC sucks. 1-3-0. Finally put a good game together last night. Hope for the future. Titans suck. Nashville SC, going to get into them full in-depth post-mortem season wrap-up video probably tomorrow night. I'm thinking we'll do a Monday night live stream where I'll just get into it, break down my full thoughts on the Nashville SC season, where I think we need to go, what I think we need to do moving forward, heading into 2025. 2024 was a disaster, but what do you expect? 2024 has been a disaster for every team that I like, except Vanderbilt. What upside down, twisted world are we living in where Vanderbilt football is the one team that's like bringing me joy consistently this season? We're in bizarro world. All right, that's it for this one. Subscribe to the channel, turn the bell on for notifications. Stay tuned, because like I said, probably going live again tomorrow night for the Nashville SC season breakdown, and have a ton of other content coming up over the next couple of weeks as well. Appreciate everybody watching. Enjoy your life. Enjoy your bagels.